Alrighty, guys. Guess who I have on the other line or on the side here? Interviewing him is Mr. Justin Dugan. Now, a lot of you guys know Justin Dugan. He is the American Muscle guy. He's the guy that does a lot of the install videos. Lately, he's been on the 24 Mustang stuff, showing you ins and outs as much as he can until we can get some tuning done for it. But I wanted to get him on just to, I don't know. I think you guys, we're really going to see a different side of Justin Dugan because I've known him on a personal level, and I think you guys should, see that side of him. So, Justin Dugan, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Alex, thanks for having me, man. It's good to talk to you again, and I'm excited to be here. I'm obviously, I think you've picked up on it, a fan of what you do. I've kind of dropped some of your isms in some of my videos, just to pay homage to what you do. And man, I'm happy to be here. So thanks again.
Awesome. Let's get started from the beginning. How did you get into not just, let's say, the car game? I'm sure you were influenced by either a parent or someone like that, but then to parlay that into a very visual position at a pretty good sized company, AmericanMuscle. Tell me how'd you get into cars, and then ultimately how you got into the company, AmericanMuscle.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think my story is probably not unlike a lot of other guys that are into cars. Grew up in the 80s, dating myself here a bit, but like the Knight Riders, the Dukes of Hazzards, all that shit, I loved anything that was cars growing up. So I had all the micro machines, all the Hot Wheels, the slot cars, and then just kind of like grew just still loving it over the years. And then my mom and my dad got separated when I was pretty young. My stepdad was a massive car guy, and he always worked for dealers. So, he kind of like nurtured that thing a little bit in a way that he'd bring home. Back in the day, it was like the Trans Ams. He worked for Pontiac and Buick, and he'd bring home like an LT1 Trans Am.
Oh my God!
Go out and like rip nuts in it, and like, and then funny story is like when I actually went to prom, he always like this was around the WS6 stuff, and to this day I still love those cars, even though they're huge.
So 96 to 98 era, somewhere
exactly. Yeah, I graduated high school in '99, so he actually had a demo, like an LS1, WS6 or whatever. So he let me take it to pick my girlfriend up for prom, and he's like, just don't crash it. But anyway, I'm getting off track. Long story short,
we like off track here. We appreciate off track. We like it.
Oh, I hear you, man. Well, so like that's, I guess, just any kid growing up watching cartoons, car shows. Stepdad was into it. So I guess when I started driving, then I was an only child, so he dicked around and did a bunch of car stuff and stuff he shouldn't have done when he was a kid. So he knew like going into it. So when I first wanted to get a car, I wanted a Mustang. As a matter of fact, there was an 86 hatch down the street, 4i. It was really nice. It was like a 308, had like drag lights on it. And I remember to this day going down and looking at it with him. And he said, absolutely fucking not. Like I would kill myself in that thing. And he was probably right. So we did not get the Mustang. We went polar opposite, and I actually ended up getting this. I'm sure I'm going to get flamed for this, but one of whatever. I got a Volkswagen bus, like an old school like bus that was ratty as hell. We restored it. I love the thing. Like,
those things are cool. Like I appreciate, like, you're not going to get, nobody in this audience is going to rag on you, because that's one of those cool things that what at the time was super gay and it sucked, but then all of a sudden now you're a grown-ass man, you're like, that was a cool little little engine in the back, easy, people lust after them when they're restored. So you got a VW bus as a first
VW
car
bus. Yeah, man, I wish I had some pictures. I should have came prepared, but yeah, we totally restored it. We bought it for $1,000, restored it, and it was clean, it was a little 4-speed thing with the big ass shifter coming out of the ground. So anyway, my point was like, all right, I'm going from like wanting something that was fast and a 308 powered hatch to like literally something that had like 40 horsepower. But in hindsight, that thing was probably more dangerous than the damn Mustang, because there's literally nothing up front. You know what I mean?
It's a potato chip. If you get hit, it just crumbles.
Seriously. But so that was, anyway, that's like kind of how that started. And then I sold that. I got a 57 Chevy that I kept for a year or two. Then that was kind of me entering college. And so I didn't have a lot of money at the time, and the 57 Chevy was beat. Like, it was primered, whatever, but it had a 350 in it with a 4-speed Muncie. I loved it. It was like very American graffiti, like old school.
Right.
But I lived in the Northeast at the time, and going to college, the thing like literally had 411 gears at a 4-speed thing, did like 60 on the highway, just screaming. And it was zero practicality. So my parents moved away. I stayed up in the North. So I was like, I can't have this. I sold that, and then I got a CRX. And this was like 99, 2000. I'm like, well, how do I make this thing fast? So this was like at the time where people started swapping stuff. So I actually started getting into that. And anyway, so that was cool. And then I went to college in Florida, had a great time, then moved back up here in 2005. When I say here, like Philadelphia area.
Okay.
And ended up linking up with an old buddy of mine who I used to mess around with car stuff and back in the day in the late 90s. And he was looking for just like a wrench at a shop that he had started with a couple friends. So I ended up working with him. I got a job as a TV guy in Philly out of school. And so, but it wasn't full time. So it was like, you're watching Bernie Mac, up next is whatever the hell, you know what I mean? So I would do that like 1 or 2 days a week. And then I'd work at my buddy's shop, and I'd also wait tables because none of this was really full time.
Right.
So I was turning wrenches, waiting tables, doing TV stuff. And that was, probably from like 06 to 2010, I would say. I was doing a little combination of the three. And then nothing was really going anywhere. I was just kind of like spinning my wheels, and
right.
Like, yeah, it was great. I met my future wife at the restaurant, which is awesome. And then I still have lifelong friends from the shop and gained a lot of cool knowledge from working there. But it just wasn't like, career type shit, like nothing I could like really settle into. So I started like just putting applications out and like going on Craigslist every day, nothing happening. So I was about to, I don't want to say give up, but like, how you're just so frustrated that,
oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Where like nothing's popping off, and you're just like, well, shit. I guess this world needs ditch diggers too, so I better start, kind of manning up. But I'll never forget. Like one day, I saw something on Craigslist. It was like, can you be in front of the camera and do you know and like cars? And I'm like, oh my god, like I got it. Like, yeah, this was for me. So I never forget. I went there, and it was the old studio, like that people have seen probably 1,000 times. With the dyno and like the American Muscle sign on the wall. I was like, holy shit, this is really cool. And so I went and read or like did a product review at the time for, I couldn't even tell you what, and then I just waited. And after the fact, I come to find out there was like, well, I don't know, obviously like they thought I was good, but they're like, he's too pretty, like we don't know if we want some like pretty boy like to talk car shit. But they I guess they just ignored that and they ended up saying yes, and the rest is history. So it was kind of right place, right time, a little bit of luck, and just I guess being myself, as dumb as that sounds.
It's interesting because this being in front of the camera takes a special kind of crazy. You have to kind of like just shut off a lot of stuff around you and just get after it and ignore a lot of things. Did you have any previous media training, or did you go to school for any kind of media training that made you?
As a matter of fact, I was a communications major. As a matter of fact, journalism major. I was more into writing than like being on camera, because outside of like, contrary to what probably everybody believes, I am not like a big extrovert. I am like a very introverted person. I know this job is like, how is that possible? I feel like you have to be kind of extroverted to be in this position, but that's not who I am. And so anyway, I never really wanted to be in front of the camera. But like I said, when I got my degree in journalism down in Florida, I came up to Philly right after school and ended up finding out about the TV job, went and auditioned for that and got it. So I was like, well, shit, I guess I'm going to try this on camera stuff. And that went on for a while in Philly. It was UPN, then it was CW, and it wasn't anything crazy, but it was enough to kind of like show me like, man, I could probably do this, and but then that just kind of fizzled out, and that's when in 2011 I found out about the Turn 5 American Muscle gig, and dude, 2011, the rest is history. I've been there ever since. And when I first started, Turn 5 was only like 40 people, and I'm sure we can get into this too, but now I think we're over like 500 something people.
Yeah,
and
it's a juggernaut. Like, people don't understand. It is a absolute. Forget the parts and the thing. It is a corporation. It is a big deal. So you got in on it on, would you say, the ground level? Because obviously you were the first person that actually, there were a couple people that were on camera before you that I just kind of saw, but then once you got on, that's when, in my opinion, I think it was like serendipity, right? You got on, then 2011 Coyote stuff just went straight up.
Yeah.
And you were like right there at the beginning of it. Then GT500, all that stuff, whereas Cobra and 3-valve were kind of lacking. So talk to me about how Coyote really popped off and how it helped grow American Muscle and the products and all the stuff that came down the pipe with Coyote. And you were there to see all of it just bloom.
Yeah, no, it was incredible. I mean, to be honest, like I'd always liked Mustangs, but I was never like a homer in any way, like I've always, like I said, I wanted when I was 16. I'd always loved that stuff. But like I definitely had to learn a lot on the job too, like I'd always wrenched, I'd always like known cars, but as far as the 3-valve stuff and getting into the Coyote stuff, it was kind of a new frontier. And I think admittedly for a lot of people, because the 5-liter, back in 11 was like just a whole new thing, you know what I mean? So, but I will say, like, even though that was huge for us, and as much as it pains me to say it, like, we never built our bread and butter on like the performance aspect side of things. And I think people acknowledge that, right? Like, sure. I'm probably more likely to be selling you a damn, window louver than like a blower or something, and there's reasons behind that, of course, but that's not to say the success didn't coincide with the Coyote and some of the other stuff. I think it showed. I think the Coyote ushered in a whole lot of a new generation of Mustang fans, and I just was in the right place, right time, and so was AM. Like I think when it comes to product videos, nobody was really doing it back then. Like
nobody, not like that, no.
Yeah, I mean, and I got clowned a lot for it back then, and it's funny because those same people that clown me are now making videos of their own. You know what I mean? And it's funny how it kind of comes full circle. Yeah. So, hey, like I was never kind of like trying to get caught up in the drama of all that. Like I get it. And so I'm all over the place, but I will say.
No, you're fine. Seriously, you're perfect. It's perfect.
They saw a lot of openings. I will say when I was in video and when I started in video in 2011. And to your point, there was a guy named Dave who, when I came into audition, Dave was doing, this was like stage 1 of our blackout car. It was literally the 2011 5.0 that we ended up putting a single Helion kit on, but he did like the first 1 and 2 stages. And I remember watching him do like a clip or something, like, man, there's no way I'm getting this job. This dude's way better than me. But whatever, it ended up like things ended up happening and I'm here, whatever. So to your point, yeah, they had tried video, Mike Wilson was tuning for Bama at the time. He had done a few videos. And I guess whatever, they still didn't think they had the dude. And I guess that's obviously what I became later on. But so it was interesting to step into something that had kind of already been formed, but not really, and kind of make my own identity. And right. But as far as like how it grew, man, it was crazy. Like dude, like doing pre-painted parts, exhaust clip videos, like stuff like that I think we look on YouTube and there's like a dime a dozen now. Like back in 2011, 2012, that shit didn't exist.
Nobody was doing it. It was like when you wanted a MagnaFlow sound clip with a catted car, you go stock and you do revs per RPM, and then you do a takeoff video. And then I would see a MagnaFlow or a Corsa or MBRP or whatever, or actually it was pipe bombs. Like when pipe bombs came out, that was like the first exhaust everyone got on their Mustang back in 2011. And I was like, they don't sound like shit. They don't sound terrible until you started doing free flowing exhaust, and it just all went to shit. But that's when I started noticing that, okay, these guys are pushing product. In your opinion, what was there one, that's just, I don't say product, but was there one product type that really brought AM to the next level when it comes to just sales? Because you guys went from like being a good sized company to having UPS trailers outside, like crazy stuff. So was there like a certain product line that made it just go crazy?
Man, you know what? And I don't think I'm saying anything that people don't know here, like that are in business. But yes, we are a reseller. We sell, like you said, MBRP, Corsas, BBKs. But I think what really made AM and Turn 5 as a company kind of like hit that next gear, that next level, is when they started coming out with their own shit, right? Like, so the MMDs, the, Raxiums and all that stuff, like, when you cut out the middleman essentially, and you are basically, it's all margin at that point, right? So, right. When you're reselling someone else's stuff, there's only so much money to be made. But once you are making that product, the margin obviously, doubles, triples, quadruples, whatever, So I think once they really started realizing like, hey, like reselling's fun and fine or whatever, but like we can be making a whole lot more money if we actually cut out the middleman or whatever and just started making our own stuff. And I think that's honestly where you started seeing these really big jumps. And that happened with Mustang and then Jeep and then truck as all the different sites got added eventually. So I do think, yeah, the pre-painted part stuff was huge at first because no one was offering like a spoiler right out of the box ready to be put on.
Right.
I think that was huge. But then a lot of the stick-on shit that people love to hate, and I get it. Like I don't have it on my car, so it's not my thing. But there's as my dad would always say, there's an ass for every seat, and I think there's always fans of that stuff, you know what I mean? And you see it at every car show. So the pre-painted, like the louvers, the scoops, all that stuff was really big for the company. But really just like, I think cutting out and not cutting out, but being their own vendor.
And being the manufacturer and the supplier, just the margins go from 30% to 50, 60, whatever.
Right.
And exactly. it becomes a juggernaut of a business. So then I started noticing, because at that time I was just a guy making fun of a lot of the stuff you guys were doing, because
and rightly so. We earned a lot of it.
Right. And it was fun. And I was just like, no one's going to notice. Right. But then I started noticing you, and when I started working at VMP, that you had a white S197, and I saw you drive, and I go, oh, if that thing doesn't run 10s, this motherfucker is non-driving, you know what? And you know what? It went 10s, and I went, okay, this guy knows some shit. Like, he knows how to drive. He understands that if you can't make the car perform, like you got the racer. Like, in my opinion, the people that like to race their cars, in my opinion, I saw that video and I go, this guy knows what he's talking about. Did that make maybe, let's say, management or whoever say, hey, there's something here. Let's get you maybe writing your own script. What do you think about these parts? You try them on your personal vehicles. Like, what was the evolution of the performance aspect of your job there?
No, I think that's a great thing to bring up, man, because like from day one, I've always written everything I've done. Like there's nothing really been prepared for me, but that doesn't mean the style and the direction hasn't changed 100 times from 2011 to now. I will say in that first probably 2 to 3 years, if not longer, there was a big time disconnect between what I wanted to do and what I think we were doing. And I think that's why there was a lot of entrances for, someone like yourself to poke fun, because it was like a marketing guy doing what they thought was cool to make a video, right? And I hadn't earned a place at the table yet to say, like, I don't think that's what we should be doing, and here's why. I was just like, yeah, sure, whatever, man. I'll go along with it because I love this job. I think there's something here, and I don't want to like rock the boat. Right. So the first couple years, there was a lot of stuff that might have been a little cringy and gained us attention maybe in the wrong way, and I fully admit that, and will still admit that. But later on, I think as it progressed, they started maybe trusting me more with decisions. But even to your point about driving, like the Project Blackout, that black 2011 5-liter with the turbo, like I wasn't able to drive that. I wasn't able to drive a lot of our project cars at the track because of insurance reasons. Gotcha. But then once we started because we started growing as a company, there was like all this red tape. And once they figured out like how to get separate policies for certain things like racing, then I think I started being able to like, all right, get behind the wheel and show. Because to your point, I grew up like dicking off, like going to street races in Philly, like racing my own pieces of shit, like at Cecil County, and right. That's what I was. Like I've always been that guy, but like I couldn't really do it with the company, which was a pain point for me, and it always sucked watching from the sidelines when it's like, I could do better than this fucking guy. You know what I mean?
Right,
but
right.
I couldn't do it. Like for whatever reasons, legality, I just couldn't until I would say, man, probably like 2015, 2016, they finally be like, all right, well, do you feel comfortable doing this? I'm like, yeah, man, I've been for years I want to do this, So anyway, to your point, I think like the race between Steph and I, that was later on when we were actually able to start driving and stuff. But I think, how am I trying to say this? There had been a bit of a hierarchy with how video was produced, shot, decided upon, whatever. And there still is, but I think at least when it comes to content, I have more of a say now and more of a hand than I did back in 2012, 2013, when it was like somebody else in the company's thinking like, hey, I think some of our vendor partners would really like if we did this, so we're going to shoot it like that, and you're going to use these parts. And And to me, like as a car guy, I'm like, well, there's nothing wrong with these parts. Probably not stuff I would have chosen, but I was kind of a yes man, still, am, because I'm a company man. I want to do a good job. I really believe in the company I work for. And, we've had some missteps along the way, but as a whole, I think as time has gone on and I've been able to have more of a say in what we do and don't do, I think things have maybe become a little bit better for us, from not a believability, I think but maybe just like a realistic standpoint.
Yeah,
That's the right word
like
for
now
it.
what I'm starting to see that I appreciate is it seems like from an outsider perspective, you film, you edit, and you write the whole thing. And you're doing, in my opinion, real world content. You're basically taking a draggy and you're saying, what can this thing go 0 to 60? You're filming it, you're doing everything on your own. So it went from what it seemed or perceived to be a something written for you, and maybe I don't want to say disingenuous approach. I'll just say it wasn't more of a racers or performance aspect approach to now being, hey, you guys do draggy stuff. Look at what this car draggies. Look at what the 60-foot is. Look at what a drag radial does. And that's when someone like me started paying attention. And obviously you saw that I wasn't making fun of you guys anymore, because I'm like, they're actually putting out pretty good content. And after seeing you race your S197, I said, okay, this is legit. Now, vehicles, like do you have like a fleet of vehicles now? Do you have like a truck, an S190? Like what do you got going on over there?
I unfortunately sold the S197 to a guy in Ohio. I miss it a lot, but I ended up putting that money towards something for my family to enjoy, and so I ended up selling that and reinvesting that in the house, and we can go down that road. But I do miss it. But no, I have a 19 currently with a 10R80 Whipple car. Just pump gas, but it's fast enough for me. You know what I mean?
Like a 1070, 1060 car or something like that, right?
It
Like
went 1020s. Yeah, it went 1020s, and then it broke the front bumper. Because those things just kill bumpers. I think the Cervinis, whatever. I could go down that, but
I can edit that out. Don't worry.
I don't have that damn bracket on it. You know what I mean? And everybody's like, run the bracket. And I got one of the early. I think I got one of the early lip kits for that thing, or the grill kits, and. Okay. The front bumper folded over after one run, and that was that. So, I mean, but it went 1020, right off the trailer, whatever. I mean, it's not like it's anything like, right?
No,
like
1020 on pump gas on a 3,800-pound car. It's
38.
flying.
Yeah, it was at 40-50 with me in it.
Oh, dude, that's fast.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. That's for a pump gas car. Like, does it have like a 3.8 upper and then the stock lower?
Yeah, it was a 3.875. I mean, it was literally like just a stage 2 bolt-on kit with you guys tuning it. And
wow. We tuned it.
Yeah,
good. Well, it's really fast.
Well, I was talking to Junior about it. I was like, man, I really want this thing to go 9s. He's like, man, unless you pull a lot of weight out of it or you have like just mine shaft air, it's probably not going to happen. And I didn't do either. Like, it was in July and the car was full weight, but it still like surprised the hell out of me when it went 1020. I mean, it was I was surprised. I thought for sure, like you said, like 1050, 1060, something like that. But yeah, 1020, and then we just put it back on the trailer because it was kind of busted. But it was awesome. And yeah, to your point about the S197, I don't think people believed us when we said we didn't run those things. Like, we didn't go to test and tunes and try to figure out the launch, tire pressure, like the Viking settings, nothing like that. We literally took them to the track literally that day, and that was the first time they'd ever been down a track. And I know at the time Steph didn't have great luck with her setup. She ended up breaking, but I went 1060. I was a 1070, 1060 back to back.
Dude, it was like consistent, man. And I was like, and then what it made people do inadvertently is, I understand that maybe American Muscle was like, hey, we want to push the S550 stuff, but then this little S197 was just A to B, and people were like, I don't know, I kind of like the A to B setup. It just kind of does, and everyone on my end was like, what do you think about that video? And I'm like, it just proves that the S197 is a better drag setup at that capacity. Now, if you're talking auto, stall, twin turbo, oh yeah, it's not even close. But it was just nice to see the underdog just run the number, and then you driving it to a consistent nature, and the editing was good. That you would look back at the time and you'd go, oh, look, it ran another number, it ran a similar number again. And people like me started going, okay, this is a legit deal. Now, when it comes to Gen 3 stuff, did you guys, because they did a facelift basically, but obviously internally in terms of transmission and power plant, vastly different. Did that affect anything in terms of operations because it was a nose? Actually, it did have different nose, different bumper, so maybe you guys were able to put out product for that. But when Gen 3 came around, did you see a similar bump like when Gen 2 came around, or was it just like Gen 2 light, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think it was as big of a deal. So to back up and just maybe big picture this, AM had become such a monster for Turn 5 that eventually we started to hit like, I don't want to say a plateau, but like we've hit kind of like a market saturation to the point where it's like, all right, we've captured a rather large chunk of the audience and like the customer base, but it's not like growing like truck is currently, right? So I don't want to say we don't put a lot of effort into Mustang, because we do. It's the thing that we launched. It's kind of our baby. But like when a new vehicle comes around, there'll be a big content push to try to like get people excited about it. But we could be better, and I'll fully admit this, at getting the new stuff up quicker in regards to products. It's easy for me to take a GoPro or a Draggy out and just go shoot the car and whatever and go have fun with it. But I think where we could do a better job as a company is getting parts up on the site sooner. Some of our competitors do a really good job at that, and there's certain things we work on, but I think when we get to be a certain size and we keep growing, it's hard to manage. I think we have like 40 vehicles now that we cater to. It's insane. Yeah, between American Trucks, American Muscle, Extreme Terrain, now Eckler's. We bought Eckler's, which is all basically pre-79 stuff, whether it's Model A, Model T, the Tri-5s. I mean,
you guys even support that stuff? You even do old stuff like that?
We haven't done video yet. Like, we're trying to just kind of, there's a lot of behind the scenes boring stuff that from acquiring a company such as that and then making our processes part of the routine. Like, it's a lot of boring stuff, but it's very necessary for the business to be able to track stuff and forecast stuff. And so once we're done with that, there's definitely talk of, I've already shot like an Eckler's video, so to speak, but it's going to be more difficult because it's not like we're going to go buy like 55 Chevy, 56 Chevy. You know what I mean? Like, right. It'd be insane to try to like have all these old classic vehicles. So we have some other things in mind that will help for that. But it's going to definitely pose a new challenge. But getting back to your original question, it's hard because I think there's, and even I think I've even said, I saw you say it about like the 24 Mustang and how we're trying to push the content and all that. And I think we do, but at the end of the day, like, man, product video is like what is most important to us. So as much as I would love to shoot product or content videos every day and have fun with, whatever, drag racing, burnouts, dyno stuff, whatever. But like ultimately that doesn't necessarily sell parts as much as like a product video. And I know it seems contradictory, but if we're doing a little bit of content, then that's videos we're not shooting that we could be selling products. And so it's always been a give and a take. Okay. So when the new stuff does come out, yes, there's a desire to like film it, get people excited about it, but it's hard to realize what the actual like consumer is buying or isn't buying. And there are changes to our design process and things like that.
Interesting. Like, give me an example if you could, because I'm sure you have a finger on the pulse of what sells. Because sure. I'm sure you go, hey, this video drove this many people to this site, blah blah. You see the analytics in the background. Yeah. If you can, in general, give me an example of what is the best selling product for Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3. Would it be wheels fly off the shelf? Would it be, like what is it that a lot of Gen 1 people buy? What is it that a lot of Gen 2 and 3 people buy?
That's a good question, man. And honestly, you think I'd be privy to that info? I really am not. I swear, like I'm not bullshitting. A lot of times I think, people see me and I get it on Instagram all the time. It's like, hey, where's my order? I'm like, dude, I don't know.
Like you're there you're picking it from the warehouse. Oh, here it is, bro. I got it.
Like, I'm not saying that's an equivalent question, but like at the same time, the company is so big that like, dude, I don't want to say I punch a clock, do my videos and go home, but it kind of is that. And in some regards, and like, there's people, that determine what products we should shoot based on, certain figures that we deem like, all right, well, then this thing has earned a product video. But that happens in somebody else's department. And I'm sure I could figure that out. I'd be curious.
That's an interesting one because I wonder for example, let's say Gen 1 people mostly buy a header type or a wheel type or a drop kit or control arm. That like I wonder if American Muscle was ever going to do like stage. I don't know if they already do it. They do like stage stuff where it's just like a stage 1 suspension setup, stage 2, stage 3. If Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3 seem to be on the same page in terms of like, hey, these people buy this, why not give them a kit instead of sending it separately? And I'm sure you can take something that has shit margin and someone that has great margin and make a product and go bada bing bada boom, here's your stage 1, whatever it is. I've always wondered if there is analytics in the background that I'm sure you're not privy to right now, where people go, hey, let's just make a new product and we call it a stage package or something like that. I've always wondered if there's ever that kind of talk in the background.
Yeah, I mean, for a while, dude, I can tell you a little insider baseball. Like, I think this was years ago. I don't know if it still stands, but for a while, our most profitable product was literally a lip kit for like a 9904 Mustang. It was something, yeah. I mean, so to your
point, that piece of rubber on the bottom that extends it?
Yeah, like that Home Depot looking like garage door thing, you know what I mean? Because I don't want to say ours is like that, but literally it was a piece of plastic.
Yours is top-notch quality, yes.
No, of course. But no, honestly, man, like that was, I don't know if it was our best-selling, most profitable, or a combination of the two, but so getting back to your question, it's probably something like a house-made product, so it's probably like an MMD chin spoiler or something for Gen 1s, you know what I mean? Or SR springs. Correct. Because we've sold, I don't know how many sets of those things, but like, it's probably something like that, honestly, that is a house brand part. Probably not that exciting, to be honest with you, but something that is priced right and people want. And I would venture a guess it's probably something like that.
Okay, cool. So now wheels should be like the similar
AMR 5
AMR exactly.
AMRs, or like the GT500 stocks or whatever stuff.
Gotcha. So the car show stuff, like I remember seeing that American Muscle started doing big car shows. Around what year did you guys start doing the stuff like at Maple Grove specifically? Because I think you were doing them elsewhere and then you moved it over to Maple Grove.
Yeah, so we had them when I first started in 2011. We were having them at a community college, Delaware County Community College, and it was a great venue. It was like stadium-style parking lots, so it actually was really cool for the time, but we just outgrew it. So then I would say probably 2013, 14 is when we started to move to Maple Grove, and we've been there ever since. Matter of fact, when I first, this is a funny story. I don't know if people actually appreciate it or not, but when you were working for VMP, you were coming to the show. And I think this is when VMP was kind of sponsoring the races, and yes. They're always like trying to like have somebody up to like co-MC or whatever during the races. And sometimes Starkey will do it, but I think this time around, I was talking to the owner Steve, who was like, "Hey man, we're looking to have VMP do the races this year. Do you think Starkey should do it?" I said, I honestly, I don't know how it like kind of happened, but it was like, I think Alex should do it. And he was just like, you're kidding me, right? Because and up until that point, like, I don't think he's not as tuned into YouTube as like you and I are.
Right.
But like all he knew about you is that he pretty much, that you ripped.
Talk shit all the time.
A lot. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I know it sounds crazy, but believe me, I think like once I get to know Alex and once he gets to know me, I think it'll honestly be like a good fit. And like he took a chance. You did it. You made a lot of comments about like snipers being in the bleachers and ready to take you out.
See, I wish there was video of that whole thing. I never had more fun. We laughed a lot. There's a lot of inside jokes we made. I said, "Are you guys? Doesn't the NDMF class come up? The stick shift class?"
Yeah,
and then I said, "Are you guys ready to see? What did I say? Are you guys ready to see missed shifts or something stupid?" And of course, it happened. Yeah. And I'm just like, and it was fun. And I'm like, I wish there was a recording of that because a couple of things went through my head. I'm representing VMP. I am not Alex Flores, YOLO douchebag. I know you guys cut my mic and stuff, which was very funny.
We honestly didn't, man.
Oh, really?
That is like the AV bullshit that happens at those shows. It happens to me all the time, and I know it sounded like it. I promise you, we wouldn't do nothing like that.
Then that's fine. And I was like, this is a lot of fun because there's a good back and forth. We basically would talk about the cards that are coming up, what's done, and it was very, I would say, professional, and not Justin Starkey, his right-hand man at the time said, "Dude, you killed
BJ?
it." BJ McCarty.
Yeah.
I said, he's like, "Dude, like, natural. You killed it. And I'm like, well, it was just me and Justin talking up there. I wasn't like, looking at the audience, which was packed, by the way. It was packed.
Yeah, those were the heydays, man. The pre-COVID shows were huge.
That's perfect. That's a perfect segue as to what I was going to say. So the car show stuff was like ridiculously popular. I remember the VMP thing had a big line. There was just people everywhere, burnout contests, blowing your ears off. And then COVID hits. And I work for Lund now, and I wasn't as privy as to that. But you are boots on the ground with that stuff. How did COVID affect not only the attendance, but obviously I'm sure sales must have sales might have gone up. It was weird how COVID went up the other way. How was the in-person attendance at shows affected just right around COVID and just right after COVID?
Yeah, no, I mean, so COVID killed the show for, I would say 2, maybe 3 years. I didn't do it because Maple Grove wasn't having people there. We just didn't do it. It was 2 years, I want to say. So pre-COVID, the shows were booming. And COVID happened. We tried to do kind of like I don't know what. We tried to do something because we were still doing Make-A-Wish builds, which a lot of times our show benefits Make-A-Wish, and we'd always do a vehicle for a kid. And this time it was a truck. It was like a first-gen Silverado that we redid for a kid in Texas.
Okay.
And the show got canceled because of the rain. This was supposed to be the first show after COVID, and it got rained out because of a hurricane. But so to your point, it killed the kind of momentum that we had with it. So then after COVID, we rebranded it more of a Turn 5 show as far as like not an AmericanMuscle, which a lot of people were upset about, rightly so. I get it. Like, I think the AmericanMuscle show was such a monster, and it had such a positive kind of, light in the community where it was like, you can go, you can see a bunch of cars, you can, dick off in some of those events if that's your thing, or you just hang out and have a good time, see some cool stuff. And then the owners, because the company was growing, they didn't want to just cater to one site anymore. They wanted to like open it up to all of our sites. So it's like we wanted to have trucks there, like Jeeps and Broncos, and so last year was actually the first year where we were able to have it because we didn't get rained out, whatever. And it was different, you know what I mean? Like, I think the old AM head in me was like, it's good, but it's just lacking that energy that we had for the AM shows. But I think it was the first year after COVID that we had a show. It was the first year of the new format. So I think there's a lot of people like didn't know what to expect. But we had a great time. It really was awesome. We did like, a bunch of random stuff, monster trucks, jet cars, like the usual Turn 5 experience.
Okay.
But those shows that you used to go, that you were there with with VMP and all that, like that was to me the heyday. And I think we will eventually get back there again. But I think it just takes a little while to kind of build back up to that. Because
it was pretty wild. It was like a lot of people, a lot of vendors, food, and I mean the parking lot was super full. And if you guys don't know, those of you listening, Maple Grove is a beautiful area. Like, it is just vast and green and lush and pretty. And it was just a very good venue, in my opinion, to showcase just car product stuff. It was and there's drag racing, obviously. So, a lot of people.
And 1 year, we gave out free tattoos. Motherfuckers are getting tattoos with AM on their arms.
Stop it.
And, like, there was a line. I swear, it was crazy. Like, and
you guys were tattooing people?
I wasn't. They didn't want me doing it, but they were like, "You want to get one on camera?" I said, "Hell no! I love this job. I
love you, but no."
Yeah, I mean, I'm good. But no, it just goes to show you how big and how crazy it was. And there was, and dude, I want to go back. I didn't get to say thank you, but like when we did do that car, when we announced the races. I took it, I took a chance, you took a chance, and I think at the end of the day, my owner of my company, Steve, was just like, he was like, man, that was really good. Thanks for like suggesting that. So thank you for taking a leap of faith there.
Yeah, I wondered, because, I don't want to make this about me, but I wondered what the thought process was where, okay, there's the perception of Alex, and then there's the reality of Alex. And then did they finally see like, hey, this guy can be professional if he needs to be, and he can add something to it? Or was there an internal process of like, oh, maybe he's being fake, or like, maybe that's,
no,
and I'm just, no? Not
at all. It was just me telling Steve, my owner, who I have a very good relationship, saying like, trust me, this is going to be good. And because deep down, like I said, I know who I am. And I think me and you have a lot in common. I might not show a lot of the stuff I am in person or on camera because, it's a little polished, whatever. It is what it is. But I think you and I are kind of cut from the same cloth in a lot of ways in that regard. And I told T, I'm like, listen, man, I know this guy. I have a feeling him and I are going to be fine. And we were, and it was awesome. And like, I still like, I don't want to be, cheesy or anything, but I still look back on that as like a really good moment for me and the company and everything.
Yeah, that. So in my opinion, that moment in terms of my outlook on what I want my channel and my perception of your public persona to be pivoted, because you can only be a douchebag so long, you can only play a clown so long until people are sick of the clown. So eventually you have to have some credibility behind your words. And in my opinion, your credibility was on my end of things was, the blue check mark was given the moment you ran that stick car to be consistent. And I'm like, all right, I that guy knows what he's doing because he can drive. And obviously he's around the products, and obviously he has to sell whatever the company pushes out. Sure. But it's not like he's a dumbass, just a pretty face saying, hey, put AMRs on your car. And I went, okay, cool. So then when we did the racing thing, I had a lot of fun. Like, we were just talking to each other, making fun of a lot of the shit that was happening. And that was a lot of fun for me. And then I think I saw Justin Starkey. I love him very much, but he's not really a stick shift driver. So I was like, oh man, this thing might stall. And it was so perfect. It was set up so perfectly. I'm like, are you ready? Sure enough, it happened. And I'm just dying inside. But it was actually, I had a lot of fun. I felt comfortable. I didn't feel like, because I knew what I had said in the past, but I also understood what this moment was, and it wasn't that moment. It wasn't the moment to flip my hat. It wasn't a moment to do dumb shit. It was the moment to help VMP and American Muscle, showcase the cars with the parts and all this stuff on the track.
Dude, I appreciate what you do, and I know a lot of people might think that's bullshit, but like, I think I played a lot of sports growing up, so I think people. Like, different communities need regulators. You know what I mean? Somebody to call out someone when the bullshit flag is up, right?
Right.
And you do that very well, almost too well sometimes. And but I think that there was a lot of things we were doing, admittedly, back then when I first started, that was a little shady. Not shady, that's the wrong word, but like, it wasn't like true to the consumer, to the enthusiast. It was, like you said, it was more of like a marketing thing rather than like a car guy thing. And even some of the stuff that you called us on, I do. We definitely, I think shifted course a few times back then, and you called us on it. But getting back to what you said, I hear you. You can't always be that guy, but at the same time, it's nice to have someone like that be like, you know what, he's right. Like, as much as I hate to admit it, like, Were
there internal talks? Let's say, for example, and again, I don't want to make this about me, but it's interesting as a company perspective. Did you guys, Turn 5 American Muscle? I don't know if Turn 5 is the parent company.
Turn 5 is the parent company. Yeah. So Turn 5 owns American Muscle, American Trucks, Extreme Train, and now Eckler's as well.
Wow, what a juggernaut of a company. So was there maybe something that was said, somebody sees it and they go, what do you think about this? And then you go, he's right? Or do people say there's an initial fuck him, and then they're like, but he's not wrong, just maybe the delivery is a little on the harsh side?
I mean, I'll give you a perfect example is when during the time when Paul was here heading up Bama, who is a great dude. People have thoughts about whatever, but that's neither here nor there.
Right.
Very good dude. And he actually, to his credit, wanted to turn kind of like the I guess what's the word I'm looking for? Just kind of the enigma or whatever of the Bama, or the perception. He wanted to kind of like turn that around. So that's when it was like the 2015 had just come out. We were doing that. We had like, he bought like a Trinity GT500 for the company. We had a Gen 1 Raptor, and it was like, all right, we're gonna like turn this around and like just try to make it a different thing.
Okay.
And that was right along the time we paired up with JPC for the 2015 Mustang. And so, without getting like too in the weeds or too, whatever, I think in my mind, looking back, we could have done things differently, where we should have acknowledged been more clear with who we were working with and why. Correct. And I think there was strategic steps to not disclose that stuff. And again, I told you earlier, like, I wish I had a seat at the table at the time. I'd have said, I don't agree with that, and here's why. Right. That never happened. So it was just like, this is the way it's going to be. And I think at that time, you and a couple other people in the industry were rightly calling us out on how that was handled. And, I think that was a learning experience for the company for sure. It wasn't certainly one of our finer moments, but we did, Paul was very much tuning the car. JPC was very much working on the car. So there wasn't bullshit in that regard, but the way it was handled, it seemed shadier than it really was. You know what I mean?
Right. It was just from an outsider's perspective, we if someone says Gen 2 Mustang, we think Gen 2 architecture. So we just go, okay, this is where we are. But I think the problem therein lies is because now I am representing a tuning company, so you kind of have to it's tough because obviously you are Turn 5, you are American Muscle. When I say something, I know that people see me as Lund Racing when they used to see me as VMP. So obviously some of the stuff you say, you have to understand that there's a whole perception of you behind it. So if you say it, then the company says it. So once that was coming around, there was, I think, fair criticism, but I appreciate that you guys seem to not necessarily acknowledge it, but not necessarily push that going forward. But like you said, maybe you weren't in there in the talks and say, hey, this is something that we're not, there's people out there that are really understanding what's happening, and they're going to call us on it. And it's probably better not to, but I understand that if you weren't involved in terms of the decision-making, did that change? Is there a seminal moment where that changed and they said, hey, we need to bring you in. You now have a seat at the table. You now have input and direction of how the product lines or videos or performance aspects of our products are shown.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, back then it was very much a lot of cooks in the kitchen for stuff like that, including, at the time it was Bama and Paul were a big part of that. We pivoted, and we don't really kind of do that style of stuff much anymore. Now we're very much, I don't want to say segregated in our roles, but video is pretty much responsible for video. There are times where we have to maybe go up and make sure everything's good with the higher ups, but it's not as communal as it once was, where it was marketing saying this and this is that, and it was there was 5 departments in on one video. Okay. Where now it's video's video. You guys take the ball and run with it. And so that's been going on that way, I'd say, for probably at least 5 years, if not longer, where it's just So, I mean, to your point, I think they trust not only myself, but the people who else. I mean, the video department, there's 30 people in the video department now. So you don't see a lot of the host day to day like you once did. Before it was just me and Steph, but now there's Jake, there's Noah, there's guys that are just kind of recent additions to the team who mainly handle the product video side, because again, that is king for us. Product video is always going to take precedent over content. But getting back to your original question about it's just, what we shoot with product definitely comes from somebody else because there's sales data involved and things like that. But content is pretty much just us, and maybe a little bit of marketing here and there. But we drive the bus pretty much. So if there's an idea where I think is good, the 24 stuff, I told my boss, I was just hey, I think we should do this, this, and this. She said, great, let's do it. And I said, all right. So, a lot of times there's a little bit more of a procedure, it's all right, well, let's do this. There's meetings about it, blah, blah, blah. But when it's something pressing, a new vehicle, it's usually
get the content out.
Go. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, get the content out. So now, going forward, right? Before, I don't know if Bama is still a thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bama still is very much, the internal tuning company for AmericanMuscle, and I asked the guy Ryan, who is now the lead calibrator for Bama. I was curious just to see, because I know they tune a shitload of cars. I just never knew the number, and I still don't. I'm waiting for him to get back to me on that. But I was curious because I listen, and I know the comment section is going to be Bama joke after Bama joke. I get it. Like it's so old that I'm just like
the
tired.
sheer volume, that people don't understand the sheer volume that Bama is responsible for. It's not small. Like it's a good chunk, and it's worldwide. You guys are sending tunes out to people in Russia, Sweden, whatever, and it's a big company. So maybe you hear people like us say, "Oh, we have 4,000 people," and in this, you guys are probably well above that because you guys just push out volume. So on the tuning aspect, and not to get too into the weeds on the tuning, the 24 Mustang has obviously presented a unique problem to solve. Obviously, without getting too into the weeds, do you foresee that being a non-tunable car for at least a year or two, and you're going to concentrate mostly on the bolt-on parts and stuff like that, and you have kind of just like said to yourself, forget tuning, it's not happening, and when it happens, then we'll cross our bridge when we get to it?
I don't think so, man. And here's why. And I like as an enthusiast and like somebody who likes to go fast, yes, I want to see that, and I think that's very important. As a company, they don't care, and I'll be completely honest with that, because they saw the writing on the wall early on, where they didn't put all their eggs in the AM basket and Mustang basket. So now, if Mustang eventually becomes untunable, well, guess what? We have 39, 40, who knows how many vehicles the company can carry from here on out.
Right.
So if I'm a one-trick pony, pardon the dumb pun, but like if all I do is sell Mustang parts, I'm probably a little bit more concerned. But because they diversified early on, and two, keep in mind, we're not like Lethal, where it's like I love those guys, but they're very much more performance orientated.
Mustang and racing and tuning and
we are the Louvre people, right? Like, as much as I hate to admit that, like deep down we sell a shitload of superchargers, we sell a lot of performance parts, but I think ultimately, I think people shop more appearance stuff than anything. Like if you want to go build a 9-second car, 8-second car, or what, you're probably not buying all your stuff from us. I'm just going to be 100% honest. That might get me in trouble, but honestly, I think it's the truth.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's the truth. People are very good with like seeing deals, and if you guys can push product via volume and give them a $50 cut, let's say if your blower kit is $8,050 and someone else's is $7,999. I'm sorry, yours is $7,999. Someone else's $8,050. They're gonna buy it from you. They like loyalty is gone when it comes to that stuff. But let's talk about the on a personal aspect, because you're a Mustang guy, and you've seen what the Mustang can be. You saw Gen 1, Gen 2 take off, Gen 3 be just dumb, and then Gen 4 comes around, Coyote, and yes, stock for stock, it's probably a lateral move, and maybe it does have performance aspects that are better than previous Gen 3, but there's like a wall, because you can't put a part on, or okay, let's just say you can't tune it. You can put a part on and make more power, but the legality of that is completely separate.
Sure.
So as a purist, as a Mustang guy, do you go, fuck, like what are they doing? Or do you go, it's just the way things are with government and this and this and that, not to get political, but like it's just how it is, so we just have to either deal with it or go to another platform?
I do, but at the same time, I got faith in y'all, man. Like I've seen this movie.
Stop looking at us. Stop looking at us.
I'm just saying, because I remember when I got a 21 F-150, people were like, "Oh, you can't tune them. Like, what are you doing?" And then eventually, the people found a way, right? And I still feel very strongly, where there's a will, there's a way. The Eric Brookses of the world are working hard to crack the code, and everybody else who plays a big role that I don't know, I apologize, but like I still feel that that's going to happen here. How soon? You guys probably know better than I do. Yeah. But I still think eventually there will be. Does it suck now? Absolutely. I think everybody would love to throw blowers on these things and take them to the track and see what they can do, outside of like the Whipple kit, of course. But I have a lot of faith in the aftermarket. It hasn't let us down yet, and I think the same will happen here, where it sucks now, but I think give it some time and we'll be laughing about it in a couple of years, where it was like, I remember it wasn't tunable, or not laughing about it, but yeah, I just feel like it's going to be a thing of the past.
I hope so. Like, I hope so too. I'm like, let's just say, I'm an optimist, but also a realist. And unless there's something on the horizon that gives me, I hate being optimistic and then being let down. I think it's better to be pessimistic and then being, surprised. Like, oh, cool, And because I have been optimistic so many times. For example, there have been obviously, I'm one of those weird people in the industry that has worked for, a couple of big tuning companies and have been around the block a little bit. So I kind of have a good pulse as to what happens in the aftermarket. A lot of times people have the ability to take that next leap and they don't for whatever reason. And I'm disappointed because I'm like, there it is. Shit. Just do that. And they don't do it, not to give specific examples. And have you seen that? Have you seen a potential that, let's say, product route, a company direction that you said, this is it? And maybe someone says, and then it becomes something robust that you said we should have been on the ground level, but maybe it took longer than you thought it would.
Oh, all the time. Yeah. I mean, I don't know like a specific example, but margin is king here, right? Or like there's certain things where it's like, as an enthusiast, I'm like, dude, we should be carrying this. And I'll go to the product team, like, why don't we carry this? And like, well, they don't want to work with us because X, Y, and Z. Like maybe we won't we won't stock their stuff. We want to drop ship it, or we don't have enough, whatever the reason might be, right? And then that means like, well, if someone like me who needs, like, I'll give a good example. I don't know where we are here, but as of now, I don't think we have the 4 Innovations return style stuff, right? Like, so I'll give you a great example. Like with my Mustang, we have to traditionally use what we sell. So I couldn't, like, if I wanted to go do an E85 setup on my Gen 3 and put a smaller pulley on, shoot for bigger power, whatever, I can't because we don't sell it. And that's where, like, my desires as an enthusiast don't always exactly agree with like the business, I guess, side of things, right? Where It's like, damn, like, so I don't know if that's the exact example you're looking for, but there are times where
it can relate because, so for example, I have been in an unfortunate position to test a product, know it sucks, know it in my heart of hearts, this sucks. Tell them it sucks, and then they sell it anyway. Yeah. And I'm just like, now I can't go on email. I can't go on email and can't go, hey, this sucks, don't buy it, because...
Dude, I got a great one for you. You get a kick out of this. We sell a damn coyote badge. It's got like a bobcat on it. It's not even a coyote. It's like a goddamn cat.
Really?
But I went to product development and they're like, I know, but we sell a shitload of those.
Stop.
Things.
You sell a bobcat coyote, kind of like does it have...
Dude, it literally does not look a coyote at all, but it says like coyote underneath. It's a red badge that people put on their grills, whatever. And I'm like, wait a minute, I did a product video for it. I'm like,
did you laugh your ass off while doing the video? Yeah. Like, I don't know what this is.
I even said in the video, and I think that's why they didn't end up making the cut. But I'm like, to me, this isn't exactly a coyote, but hey, No, so that's a great example where I'm like, why, like, to me, I'm like, we should probably nip this in the bud, but at the end of the day, sales are king. Yeah. I mean, we did a dumb video for this grill with teeth on it. People, dude, don't ever be surprised by what people are willing to put on the car.
Did you ever do a Snake Eyes video? Did you ever do a Snake Eyes video?
I didn't. Those are great too. Man, some of the airbrush I've seen though over the years, bro. I did a Googly Eyes video, and people are like, where can I get that product? I'm like, Hobby Lobby. You can just literally... Oh, Shelby Dave's my hero, man. I love when you do that.
I've tried to... see, the problem with Shelby Dave is there's way too much content to just make, but I'm gonna get lost in it. Like if I start doing Shelby Dave stuff, it's a rabbit hole. So I'm like, my boss wants me to do it. He goes, I love Shelby Dave. Every time I go to the Shelby guys he goes to Texas where these guys just
John run. Senior's a Shelby guy.
Oh yes, he is a Shelby guy. Yeah. If I didn't make fun of him, he'd have the hat, he'd have the luggage, he'd have the socks, the onesie, he'd have everything.
I just have to say, I don't want to interrupt you, but like this is a great opportunity to say how much of a G John Senior is. Like when you guys were when London's in Philly or like PA, whatever. I had the pleasure of like stopping by the office several times just to like shoot the shit, drop off a part, whatever. And like the amount of knowledge that dude breaks off on you on any one time is like, you're fortunate enough to be around someone like him all the time. Like, dude, I tell you, like that's when I don't know what kids nowadays, if they can have someone like that But when people like kind of like reminisce about their grandfather, like, oh, he was telling me war stories. Not that I know he's a grandfather, but like that dude, I could listen to him talk for hours, and not in like a weird way, but like, I mean, from the flying to the racing to the tuning to like, he's done it all, man. And he's just a very, very smart guy. So,
No, yeah,
I wanted to get that in.
No, that's good. I appreciate that. One of the better things to do with John Sr. is after dinner, like, when I come up to where they're located, I'm usually there for 3 days or a week, just if there's any training or anything. Dinner, he has the old fashioned and he starts talking. You listen, you shut the fuck up and you sit down and you listen to the man. You'll learn about binary shit. You'll learn about the history of this and that, and there's I wish I could just spew out the shit I know that he has told me, but some of the stuff might not be, too good to air out.
Right.
But in terms of the tuning stuff and the vast knowledge, and not just that, the motor building stuff. See, a lot of people are like, I'm in a situation right now, and I don't know how up to date you are on my videos.
Yeah, I saw your stuff.
I'm in a position that now I have to learn this stuff, and I don't want to. But so was Senior. Senior was in a position where he's like, I don't want to have to learn this stuff. So now when he goes into learning it, he goes into the matrix of learning it. And then he designed his own turbo kit. He designed everything. He designed his own front end suspension and spec'd out where the cam should be, how to time them properly. And Junior is tasked with the tuning and the ones and zeros behind. And I'm just like, and then not only that, to win World Cup, we were like,
that was huge.
Like it was like, I didn't do shit. I just lined them up. But it was such a huge, blue check mark like into what we do that you can't ignore it anymore and you can't criticize it anymore, and whatever you were to say about Lund at the time goes away, because unless you did what they did, shut up. Now sure. I'm sure there was a point in time where not just you, but for me it was when you were racing, but I'm sure a lot of people said, oh, this is the pretty blonde guy from American Muscle. Did you ever see kind of like a change in attitude, let's say in person or just in general, about let's just say the validity of your words? You're not just a pretty boy saying shit, you're actually putting out knowledge and trying to educate the people out there? Or was there still sort of like a perception of he's just a sales guy, he's just selling me movers and shit?
Dude, I feel like that right now. I mean, you've had like Joel Steele on here, you've had the Fat House guys. Like, I do not deserve to be here, to be honest with you, because I am just a guy who, basically works for AM. And I personally feel I don't contribute enough, in the big picture, like, John Jr. and Senior, the Joel Steeles, the Fat House guys, whoever, right? Like these guys have actually like done meaningful shit. I just feel like I work for a very prominent company and I've been in the right place for a very long time. And if that's something to be, applauded, then I guess that's great, right? But I don't know. So I guess I'm constantly battling internally, like that I'm just not a pretty boy that likes talking about cars. But I guess, listen, man, I've been here 12 years now. I've met a lot of people. Yeah,
shit, 12 years. Wow.
I know. So like, in my head, even though I battle with that, and I think that I don't want to say like I'm a fraud, because I don't think that. But I don't feel like, I don't know. I get what you're saying, and like, yes, I do feel like the pretty boy at the end of the day. But at the same time, I'll have my old fashioned and I'll go back and watch some old videos and I'm like, all right, maybe I'm not that bad, right? Like I've done some cool shit. Like I've shown people some neat things. Like even to your point, I watched one of the videos today about how you're saying like, if you're making sub 1100, buy an illuminator, right? And don't. I went and watched the video I did at past Performance Auto Assemblies or Performance Assembly Solutions that assembles the illuminators. And I'm like, I've had the ability to show people who might not be privy to that kind of thing how these engines are built and why they're maybe better than Bob's machine shop down the street, right? Like, so you
have a video of that?
I'll send you a link. Yeah,
send me the link really because
step by step. Yeah,
I am on that warpath, not because of being salty, but being realistic and trying to give the customer the best advice that you have at the time possible. Yeah. So if you have a video of you at Performance Assembly Solutions in, what is it, somewhere Michigan?
It's right by Livonia. It's not too far from Dearborn. Right. Yeah, but like So yeah, I have a video like literally walking through like an Illuminator build.
Oh, dude, you're gonna send me that link and I'll put it up there. Here you go. Here's the motor you're getting. Absolutely.
That, and then they also hand assemble all the Ford GT engines there. All the twin turbo V6 engines are all hand built right there.
Did you see the GM engines they also assembled?
Yeah, they do. In that video, there's an LSX banner like in one of the shots, and people are like, LSX, what the hell is that shit? They assemble everything there, though.
If you open the GM Performance Parts catalog and you want an LS3, they assemble it there more than likely, or a 454 or anything. And how they test it is cool as fuck. It's like a dry dyno that just rotates the motor, and it goes.
They cold test all of their engines. Yeah, they fill them up with oil. They cold test them, and I show that as well in the video.
Beautiful.
But
beautiful.
Yeah, so like I guess bringing that full circle, even though while I don't think maybe I'm on the same platform or level as guys that you've interviewed in the past, I do think I've had maybe enough in the history of my employment here to earn a seat at the table, right? Where I've done some pretty cool shit, shown some cool stuff. And who knows, maybe in some, like, without trying to pat myself on the back too hard, maybe help people. I know I have, and matter of fact, without getting too dorky, but like people like, I watched your videos and I didn't think, I don't know if this is a compliment or not, but I didn't think I could be in front of the camera, and I saw your dumb ass, so here I am. No, they didn't say that, but you know what I mean? Like, people are like, because they just asked me how I got this job, and I told them, like, dude, right place, right time, just do it. You know, you got to try it. So anyway, I think maybe if I could have helped a couple people along the way, like just have the confidence to go for it, then that's cool. You know, like maybe I'm not breaking records or doing anything that I think is cool, but at the end of the day, maybe other people might see it and be like, all right, yeah, I can appreciate what that guy's done.
I guess what I'll do is I'll give you the globe, like the bird's eye view, of who you are, in my opinion, without, sucking dick and all this stuff. You are Justin Dugan of American Muscle. Like, those words carry weight. So you have access to a lot of the stuff because you're affiliated, or you are now basically the spokesperson of a juggernaut company, Turn 5, big company. You do product videos, you do this. So people view you as the guy of American Muscle. And for better or worse, I'm the guy for Lund Racing. Lund Racing does not promote, does not have a commercial. But if anyone talks shit, or if we want to push a product, I'm the guy that's either up their ass or showing them the product. So in a similar fashion, you do it, but for a big company. So I wouldn't say you're like, I wouldn't put yourself down to say I'm just some dumbass in front of the camera. If you have access to like Performance Assembly Solutions and they allow you to video there, they didn't allow me to video there. They were like, fuck you, buddy. I was at Roush. I saw way too many things at Roush. If I could tell you what I saw at Roush in 2015, I go, oh my God. Like I saw the future, and a person told me at Roush, 2024 is not going to be tunable, and boom, here we are. Now, I couldn't say much back then because, NDAs and bullshit, but the guy showed me around, and just so that I have the knowledge, you have the ability to have cameras in the joint and show them stuff. So that's a great point, man.
Yeah, you're right, and I forget about that. I take that for granted, I guess, right? Because I've had conversations with Jack Roush about him, crashing a car when he was a teenager and barely living. Chip, we did a bill with Chip Foose. Like, I mean, people have their thoughts about him, but like he took me back in his office and showed me some drawings of shit that he did with like big, the big three manufacturers for like pitching that, like just stuff that I think most car guys would be like, this is a pretty cool fucking thing. And like,
you're around Jack Roush and Chip Foose. Like just that alone, I met Jack Roush, and do you know that story? Like, I don't know if you've heard the show, but it was like. After the plane crash, obviously he's not himself or whatever, and I meet him at one of the NASCAR lower. I was invited to go to like a NASCAR race, which is like a B class. I don't know, the Nationwide Series or whatever they're called now. And he was there, and they go, the guy who invited me up said, hey, this is Jack Roush, and Jack Roush like, hi, and he's like, what's your name? I go, Alex, and the other guy said, he's a tuner, and he goes, good for you. That's it. I was like, wow, okay. I met Jack Roush, cool, but got a picture with him, whatever. But you're able to have sit down conversations like one-on-one. You weren't with like a whole team of people around him, right? Like it was just.
No, correct. Yeah. I mean, like, we'll just, you're right. I think because of the access, and you're correct there, like, they know we're coming in to film all day, so they'll set aside a day to just kind of like be available, so to speak. So, yeah. So for him, or like, Foose, or even going to lunch with Steve Saleen and talking to him about his old SCCA days, like the Trans Am days. Like,
Okay.
I know, again, people have thoughts about Saleen, and whether they're right or wrong, true or false, whatever, that's neither here nor there. But the guy has done some cool shit. You know what I mean?
Yes,
like,
absolutely.
and that's what I'm saying. Like, I think I don't judge people on, what they're, whatever. If we've done what we've done, but what do I know about you on a personal level? And I think that's how I go through life. Like, you've talked, shit about this, or you've done that. That's cool. But like, how are you when you and I are talking? And,
Exactly.
I always feel like if you're cool with me one-on-one, then we're good, and like, even if you're not, then whatever, I don't care. But like, I guess to the point where I'm trying to make is, yeah, like even like with Vaughn, like we got, like, I know people have their feelings about Vaughn, but the dude is a very smart businessman. He has unparalleled access to Ford. Like, I've seen some of the shit he's done. I rode with him in his Ultra 4 rig in 2017. We won a race. Like, I got to stand on a podium on some shit I'd never be able to do otherwise. I have no business being up there, but you know what? We qualified, we raced, we won, and like, I got the picture holding the trophy. Like, so yeah, like maybe I don't know. Do I deserve to be up there? Probably debatable, but I got to do it, and it's cool at the end of the day. And to your point, you're right. Like, maybe Justin from American Muscle does carry some kind of clout in a way that is enough to maybe hopefully show some cool videos for guys to get a kick out of, I guess. I don't know.
See, I think you and I have a similar thought process as to who we feel is important in a certain field. Like, you and I look at Joel Steele as like one of the baddest fucking stick shift racers in the Ford game, at least.
For sure.
All right. So we see him as he's up here.
Same thing with the Ben Stoners of the world. Like
Ben Stoner, stuff like John Jr., all that stuff. So then people, that's who we perceive or look up to or respect highly. The general public, which is 80% of people, look to you and go, that guy is important to me because I've gotten every part on my Mustang because he's either said it's good, shown it, or said it's available, or put it on his car and it's performed. So it does carry some weight, but as long as you don't walk around with a big head, I mean, I think things are good. I wanted to ask also about something that happened to me at the American Muscle Car Show that I'm sure happens to you all the time. And you're a married man, and I'm respectful. Groupies. Like, do you get ever like, hey man, you're just
they're all 40 and 50-year-old dudes.
Exactly.
There's no chicks that come up to me, man.
Right. So definitely I was leaving the American Muscle Car Show, and as I was leaving, sometimes you get a circle of people and they go, okay, I got him, so let me like ask him questions and blah 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 blah. And one dude was paying a little too much attention, whatever. As I'm leaving, I get an email because in my card I had my email, and he basically went, let's just say he liked me a lot and really professed that this and this and that. And I thought, if this bald fuck can get like any person to find themselves attractive, it's like, I'm sure you get maybe guys just want to talk to you for the sake of talking to you. And you're like, do you really want to talk to me? You just want to like be around me. Like, I'm sure there's groupies when it comes to American Muscle stuff.
I mean, I don't think so I don't know. I think let me know what I'm trying to say here. The older I get, the more I pull back from the social media. And like, I haven't heard again in your video recently, like, you don't like talking to people, right? Like, and to a certain extent, like you'd rather just, if you didn't have to do the camera thing and still make a lot of money, you would.
Awesome.
That'd be a no-brainer. And to me, like, I'm perfectly content with the amount of camera stuff I have to do because it's a 9 to 5. Like, I don't consider myself a YouTuber, even though like technically I'm on YouTube. Like, I don't get paid by YouTube. I get paid by American Muscle, and I'm like literally punching the clock from 9 to 5. So I can kind of turn that off when I go home. But I think there's guys like yourself and others that are like literally just, you have to have it. Not that you have to be on, but you have to be on, right?
Yeah.
And so like, I don't have that as much. I get guys that hit me up on Instagram and they're pretty innocent. It's like, hey, like, what exhaust would you recommend for my 18 Mustang or something like dumb? You know what I mean? Like
I was expecting them to be like, hey, you got a sweet ass, you know, like you want to go out sometime.
No, man. Yeah, I guess I gotta get on your workout plan or something, man. I gotta get my calf game right.
The calf game is decent. So it is interesting because you have a 9 to 5, and that is like my dream. If I could just afford the things I want to afford and live, you know, like have the projects that I have and stuff, and only punch a 9 to 5, I would be ecstatic. And look, Lund compensates me ridiculously well for what I do.
Yeah.
But you know, you find yourself. We have a Northeast mentality, and we don't necessarily like. If you didn't have a family, you'd probably be working. You'd probably be just like, I'm going to make more money. I'm going to do this, but not necessarily put myself out there. But I'd find a way. Like you said, you were waiting tables. You were doing like 15 different things. But obviously, once you have a family, priority shift, which rightfully so. So, but for me, because I'm not looking to have no kids, I just want more cars and, you know, more cool shit. Oh, yeah. You have to be in front of the camera, and you're always on. So if you're stopped at a Home Depot or if you're at a restaurant, like I can't imagine the big YouTubers that have 2, 3, 4, a million subs, and they just want to have a dinner at like Texas Roadhouse. They're screwed because you have to be on. And if you go, hey, I'm just hanging out with my wife. Have you ever been approached with your family and you're like, hey man, I'm just kind of like doing the wife and that family thing? Can you just leave me the fuck alone?
I've been approached a couple times, and I did not do that because it never happened. So I was like, oh, sweet. Like, somebody recognizes me. So the one time in particular, and I swear to God, I've literally can count on 2 hands maybe the time people recognize me. But the one time it happened, I was in New Orleans for a wedding for a family member. And I was in like my family's hotel. We were on the lobby getting ready to go out, whatever. And I was sitting there with like my dad, my stepmom, my aunts and uncles, and like the bellman comes over. He's like, "You're the dude from American Muscle." He's like, "Holy shit." He's like, "Man, I see Groupies in here all the time because, you know, whatever." But he's like, he's like, "This is awesome."
Fuck Groupies, you. Fuck the Super Bowl winner, you. Raxiums, woo.
Yeah, no, but honestly, that was like the one time that was like, all right, this is cool. But I kid you not, man, it really doesn't happen. Like, I'd say probably 5-10 times it's happened. And, you know, and that's not at our show, obviously. That's like at a restaurant or something, you know. But
I'm blown away by that because I would think you're pretty recognizable in the Mustang community. And that's the reason I wanted to have you on. Like, maybe you're like, why the fuck does he want to interview me? Like, dude, you're the guy that is the main spokesperson for one of the bigger, if not the biggest, aftermarket parts suppliers, whether it's stick-on or bolt-on, period. So I wanted to get your perspective as to working for them. Now, future. What does the future look like for Turn 5? Do you see them pivoting in such a fashion that you're like, oh yeah, this is going to go on because we're not married, just like you said earlier, we're not married to like a performance product. We're more generally, we'll supply everything, and whatever sells, we'll just give it. Do you see them kind of like pivoting and making moves to kind of like really shore up their position in the aftermarket? Or I'm not saying you wouldn't say if they're not, but I'm just saying, do you see moves being made at the upper echelons that make you go, okay, I'm going to be here for a little while?
100%. I just had dinner with the owner a week ago, 2 weeks ago, just to touch base. You know, we do it from time to time, and we talked about some things, and there's absolutely things happening in the background right now to continue to grow the company. And that's one thing about Steve and Andrew, these two brothers, by the way. They started this thing like, you know, in their mom's garage. They were teenagers, and they blew it up to where it is now. Like, so, you know, I know some people are like, oh, that's the Walmart of Mustang parts. And like, yeah, it is, I guess.
But you go to Walmart, don't you? Like what I tell people is you go to Walmart, don't you?
Exactly. So like it's not like they inherited some big company and they just been riding it. Like they grew this thing from literally nothing. And so for me, are we, you know, it's not as maybe charming as some of the small shops. I get that. But at the same time, I don't think that should take away from their success. Now, that being said, they have always been focused on growth. They have like a growth mindset like I've never met before. And I think that's why we've gone from, you know, 40 or 50 employees when I started to over 500 now in, you know, 10, 11 years, because they just want to keep growing the company. I've talked to them like, if you guys sell this company, like, what are you going to do? They're like, start another one probably, because they just, they can't, that's all they do. They love the challenges, the day-to-day challenges of growing a business and seeing what happens next. They aren't the type to sit on a beach somewhere and collect their checks. Like, I mean, a lot of the company works from home now from COVID, where we're getting people back in more. But before that, dude, they were in here 5 days a week. They're not like mail it in type owners. They are all about their business. They literally know what's going on in every department very well. They are fully invested. And so with that being said, yeah, talking to Steve at dinner the other night, I know some things that they're working on in the background that is going to continue that growth mindset. And I asked him point blank, I'm like, you guys ever like want to just cash out and just go ball out for the rest of your lives? I mean, they're in their 30s, you know, the company's worth
they're young. Holy
whole
shit,
lot
they're
of money.
young.
Yeah. And so they're
You're like 39 or 40, right?
I'm 42, bro.
You're 42. Damn.
42, 81. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
So
shit.
I know. Yeah, tell me about it. I date myself here, but I'm still not the oldest one in the Mustang game. That's Bill. That's old CJ's Bill. At least he's got a couple years on me.
Well, I'm 46, so people are just like, oh, I act like a 18-year-old, but you know, it keeps me young. So yeah, these guys being that young, you would think that they'd want to grow for as long as they could. I couldn't imagine just cashing out and then starting.
Yeah, if I were them, I'd be cashing out tomorrow. I'd be like, I'm taking my money and running.
Yeah, but then what? Like, okay, like what would you do? Like, let's say Justin Dugan tomorrow is worth $35 million. What do you do? Go. What's your first move? Go.
Invest it and buy a bunch of toys. That's it. But no, these guys are smart. They've made a lot of right moves. They've made some questionable calls in the past, and they'll be the first to tell you that. But at the end of the day, they make more right ones than wrong ones. It feels like, being as a part of the company for as long as I have. They definitely have the best interest of the company in mind. There's no denying that. They definitely want to take care of the employees. The day-to-day here is great. You know what I mean? They do a lot for the employees. It's a really cool place to work. And I don't just say that because like I have to or because I'm the video guy. It genuinely is a cool place to work. And these guys, Steve and Andrew, are a big part of that. And they've always kind of like made it possible to be excited about coming to work. And so yeah, to their credit, I guess you're right. Like, why would I want to sell right now when I'm doing well, I'm growing the company, and let's see where the next 5 years takes us. But if I were to guess, the next 5 years is going to probably mean more vehicles, maybe acquiring more brands,
different platforms, for sure.
Platforms that maybe we don't currently cater to. Why not? I mean, because everything they've done. Again, maybe one step backwards, 2 steps forwards, whatever. But they continue, like the stock market. They're trending in the right direction long term.
That's the hardest thing to do, in my opinion, especially in the Mustang aftermarket. If you don't see a growth mindset, well, you're not motivated to like either stay working for them. Like I started, in certain companies, I started looking around going, I don't see anything on the horizon for years. Like I see nothing, and I'm not making any money. So I'm like, why would I stay in this situation? But at least that's why I asked the question, because if you could see a future being built, or at least some progress towards something, then you can go, bro, I'm staying here. Why go anywhere if I see this company being robust and strong for 10, 15, 20 years down the road, and you've been there 12, and you see how from 60 or so employees to 500, I know that we have at least employed 3 of your ex-employees over at there. Like it was Dakota, Brandon, and I think a customer service rep. I forget his name.
Yeah, no,
so 5. We've basically poached all your people.
Well, that's just it. I'm glad you pointed that out, because for everybody that always shits on Bama, I will have half of Lund Racing is ex-Bama employees.
Oh yeah, they come over like, hey, come over here. You know how to operate the system. Get over here. Yeah, we would poach a lot of the guys because I don't know. I think when we were growing crazy. The old days of this little thing.
I'm still holding on to mine. That's gonna be worth a couple grand one day,
dude. Imagine. I mean, we announced the LRX stuff soon, so I hope that does as well. But in those days, the growth was so silly that we had to throttle back because we couldn't maintain proper customer service support. So I'm sure if when you work for a company that needs to throttle back and says, oh, hey, we made too much money, here's some of that, I'm like, oh, shit, okay, appreciate that. It's difficult to speak badly or not speak highly of that company. So I wouldn't poo-poo the fact that, or people would say, oh, you're just a company man saying that shit. If you are in a position like you're in and the company is making strides to better themselves or at least keep their growth happening, of course you'd speak highly of that company. Yeah. You're not going to go out there and be like, oh, hey, we suck. I'm just going to talk with Alex and say we suck all the time. And my point wasn't to try to trash anybody. I said I was going to be respectful. I just wanted to kind of hear your side of things and your story. So at the end of the day, do you see yourself maybe managing, or not just managing, let's just say running the department instead of being in front of the camera? Because eventually there's going to be a new generation that says for real, and they say cap, and they say the weirdest shit on the planet, and you're going to be like, I'm gone, I'm out to lunch, I don't know what about. Yeah, like, exactly, like I don't know. So is there now a new wave of Gen Z and other people that makes you go, you know what, I see a day that I might be behind the camera instead of in front of it? Is that something that you've ever thought of?
I do. I think about it, but I don't think I'm there yet, man. Like I still am just as excited to come up with new content ideas, tweak our product videos, as boring as that sounds, but like there's still a lot of challenges out there. And dude, to be honest with you, and I'm not trying to like knock anybody out there, but finding someone who is good on camera and knows about cars is a very difficult thing to do. And that has a good work ethic, because typically it's like what, cheap, fast, reliable, pick two.
Yep.
That's kind of how it is in like trying to find someone in this role. It's like you're good with cars, you're good on camera, and you're reliable. Typically something is lacking there, and we've had that in the past. And so I guess what I'm trying to say in that regard is that like I still want to captain the ship. Like as far as the hosts are concerned, I want to be the dude. The problem is, and I tried to say this earlier, as the older I get, the more time I want to spend with my family, the less I'm interested in like posting on Instagram or like holding up that end of the bargain, where it's a valuable thing. Like I get that. Like you got to still play that game. I just hate doing it, man. And I hate saying that, but I hate being like, hey, front end Friday with this cool ass muscle. Yeah, like
FEF hashtag, and you're typing hashtags going, fuck, I just want to hang out with my kid and my wife. Fuck this.
I do, man. And I get like both can be true, right? Like I want to do that, but I don't want to do that, if that makes sense. Like, so will there come a time where that will be a detriment to the company? Maybe, but that's what social media team's for. They can take care of that. I'll do my video stuff. No, I don't know, man. We do have someone who's been in charge of the video department for the last, I would say, 6-7 years. Angela, she's done a great job managing. She does photo and video, and I can't stress it enough. Like, people think like we just go out with a GoPro and have fun and do burnouts. Dude, this is like a 9 to 5. Like I have a cubicle where I literally sit. I get a spreadsheet of products that I'm like, all right, let me go down the fucking list and write about this 10,000th intake and 5,000 set of taillights. And like, it's a grind, dude. It really is. Like, it's fun. Yes, I have a great job. I love my job. I'm not saying I don't.
Right.
But there's days where it's like,
it's like a job.
Today, like this honestly was the best part of my day. Like otherwise, I'm going back to my cubicle around the corner to write about a goddamn bumper. You know what I mean? That I have to unpack. With the support, so your shit don't blow off on big end. But no, I mean, so like. I don't even know where I'm trying to go with this, but like there is very much work aspects about the job. I think people like social media, they see the cool shit and they're like, man, that's the best job in the world. You're so lucky. And yeah, I agree with you, but there's still the ugly shit that you have to do at the end of the day that people don't see and don't want to put the work in. You know what I mean? And I think maybe that's why I am still here after 12 years, is because I can come in, put a smile on my face, talk about the 10,000th BBK intake, you know what I mean, for a V6, and
have a good time just doing it. Not having a good time, but at least, yeah, exactly. And I wonder, like, since racing has started to change a little bit, now we got 60 to 130 guys, we got sideshow stuff. Like, has there been talks about, like, I don't know, an extra quarter panel support for the sideshow, or like something 60 to 130 specific?
Might be onto something there.
I mean, look, if you have like extra hard quarter panels or soft, whatever you want to do at the sideshow.
Whatever, yeah, crumple zones back there.
Has there been a bit of a sea change at all with the new way of performance when it's 60 to 130 or other that? Or you're like, no, we're still gonna, or maybe additional adhesive in the louvers so they don't fly off during a sideshow.
Maybe like,
that. Like anything like that, or not really?
If there is, again, I don't know. Like, but I think what I do see a change in with those videos is that's what people want to see, man. Like, I still think like drag strip videos are great for us. But like anytime we do like a short with a draggy video, like the views are like triple a normal video. You know what I mean? So all of a sudden, I don't agree with it per se for many reasons, even though I do it. Again, it's one of those things that I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. I'm not thrilled about maybe going a little faster than I should out on a certain road.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like I do it. I'm not proud of it, you know?
No, but
So
it's what the people want.
it's
And
what
you
the
have
people want. Yeah.
you have to cater to what the people want eventually, which is very tough. And if you are doing it for, let's say, a job, that's one thing. But I mean, someone like myself, I do it because, okay, I'm relevant, but I'm also going to say how gay it is, you know, and I think that's where
You have that luxury though.
right. And that's the thing. Like, if you were to say, Alex, would you ever work for an American Muscle and be legit? I'm like, probably not, because this is my problem. Like, let's say you sit down and you talk to or Jack Roush or his son, right? This is what my stupid ass, like, I have intrusive thoughts. And I sit down and I was eating somewhere at the Roush place, and Jack Roush's son showed up. And the guy that invited me there, I'll never say his name because, you know, I want to protect him. I'm sitting there with him and I go, hey, let me ask you a question to Jack Roush's son. I go, what do you do here? And I guess that's an inside joke because he doesn't really do anything there. Well, I mean, what does he do, right? So I didn't mean it that way. I was hoping that he would say something like, "Oh, I head up the product and development team," or but he was like, he gave me this mishmash of shit, and I was like, oh, he got it, you know? And I was like, see, that's my problem. My problem is I'd want to ask those intrusive, you know? And
dude, they happen during product videos too. They just get cut. You know what I mean? Certain products. And like,
but I think that's where the magic is. Like, this conversation is very, let's just say, informal. And I think people get to have a personal investment in a person, or a person. They go, I like him. You know, he's not just corporate Justin. So I think, you know, whether for better or worse, when people see the video, they'll go, you know what? He's a normal dude, just like anybody else. He's punching in, but he's doing a good job punching in, and I can relate to him. Like with me, people thought I was YOLO dude. People legitimately thought I was a guy named YOLO douchebag. And I went, wow. So that's when I had to kind of change it. And then people are like, okay, he's a normal dude that tries to teach people some Mustang stuff. So I think the informal stuff is great, but
I agree.
I have that luxury of like saying, you know, like, you know, some off the cuff shit like, hey, do you have groupies and stuff like that? No one's gonna ask Jack Roush, hey, did you bag any chicks back in the 70s when you're racing your Pinto or your Mustang 2? Like, no one's gonna ask him that.
No, I hear, but you bring up a good point, man. Like, I think there is definitely a lane for being polished for product videos, right? Because we are in the business of selling parts, and people, like, I think what we've done very well is not stand up there and say every product's the best thing since sliced bread. I think what I've tried to do with some of the newer hosts and even the department over the last few years is like toe the line. Like, don't totally shit on a product, but at the same time, don't say it's the best thing ever. Like, give like, yeah, this product does this really well, but it doesn't do this well. So if you want that, you might want to look at this instead. So it's hard because you want to make the product. You don't want to kill a product. I think that's like rule number one for us here, right?
Right.
Which, again, I know you have the luxury of doing if you wanted to, because it is what it is. But so
see, it's happening right now. Like right now in my head, I'm like, if I was working for American Muscle and they hand me a JLT, I'd be like, get this fucking thing out of here. You know? But I can't do that because I have to be a product person. You know,
you do, and so there, you have to play the game in a certain regard. Like, but at the same time, what I will say is, and something I think I'm proud of, and I guess if I can go back and rewind the conversation, yeah, I do think like I've helped, if this is even a thing, but help maybe shape how product videos, at least in the automotive field, are maybe presented or shot, right? Like, because there was a time where, again, we were the only game in town, and we got to see people kind of progress over the years. And it's like, wow, there's a lot of similarities with what we do versus what they're doing now. And so who knows, maybe we rubbed off on people in a good way, maybe a bad way, who knows? But like, I think if anything with our product videos, we've been able to tell people like in a hopefully a trustworthy, non-bullshit way that like this product is good at this, maybe not good at that. Here's how much it costs. Here's how you install it. The end, you know? And if that's what I can hang my hat on the other day. It's not the coolest thing, but you know what? Like it's something, I guess, right? So
trust me, I've looked at American Muscle videos for installs on things I didn't know about, and it's helped. Like just the simplest things, whether it be like, look, the first American Muscle video I ever saw was, I think you either installed pipe bombs or some axle backs, and I looked at that video and go, oh, that's how it's done. I had no idea. And imagine if you didn't have that. Imagine people literally cutting or doing something you don't have to do because it's bolt on, but then you find out on S550, oh yeah, you might have to cut some stuff if you want to put like a long kit or whatever. So I think it serves up multiple facets in terms of purpose. You get to have an opinion on the product based on your let's say experience. You also see an install video. You also see it, hear it, and see the before and after, and especially on sound clip stuff. I think that's super valuable because a lot of people usually buy something, they get it in their car and they hate it, and it costs them $700, and they're like, shit, now I'm stuck with this situation. So before we wrap it up, is there anything you want to shout out, anything you want to plug, anything coming up that you want maybe to have some attention on, maybe any products, events, anything like that you want to have people be on the lookout for?
Well, first and foremost, I guess I got a couple. Today is actually and I know you lost your father last year, I believe, correct? Today is actually my stepdad's. It would have been his 69th birthday. He's like basically the dude who's gotten me into cars and like took me from like playing with matchboxes to actually physically showing me how to like turn a wrench and adjust valves and do shit like that. So shout out to Snap. He's a good dude. My stepdad Don. So outside of that, I don't want to thank you for, like, seriously, I mean, like I said, I think it's important that the arc of kind of like our friendship, if you want to call it that, you called us out on some bullshit, which was rightly so. I think my opportunity to kind of like catch up with you at our show and host races was awesome because I felt, not to be weird or anything, but I felt like it needed to happen because I know deep down, like you and I probably have a lot of similarities in that regard.
For sure. Yep.
Love what Lund has done. Like I said, I talked Legos and lawn shit with John Jr. forever. Talked, like it was awesome to have John Sr.'s expertise. And what people don't know is like John Sr.'s actually had a part in AM for a very long time. Like even when we used to do these Dino War things back in the day, he'd come. He had a lot to do with some of the assisting in some of the early GT500 tuning stuff that I know Lund helped out with a lot. So he's been an asset, like not just to me personally, but to the company. And then I think the car show I'm talking about, we're actually doing it a little earlier next year. I don't think it's been formally announced, but it's looking to be either April or May. So mark your calendar. So yeah, Mustang, truck, Jeep, probably classics now that we have Ecklers too. So look forward to a spring date.
And that's at Maple Grove, the same.
It'll be
place,
at Maple Grove again. Yep. Yeah.
Very cool.
So but yeah, that's it, man. Shout out to my stepdad, 69th birthday today. Like I said, you guys at Lund for Mustang running good. And then
I can't believe it went 10-2 on pump gas. I'm like, shit, maybe we should cut the timing back a little bit.
It's those 2-inch headers I got on there, man.
2-inch headers. Oh my goodness.
Hey, the one thing I will say, sometimes being in this position, it affords you some goodies on behalf of vendors out there. So when Stainless Works sends you a 2-inch header,
you put them on.
What am I supposed to do?
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You put them on.
Fucking rips. I mean, like I said, when 10-20, I forget the mile an hour, but like, so anyway, but now you guys do a great job. Obviously I love following what you do. I think it's entertaining. So keep it up. For someone who hates being in front of the camera and talking to people, you do a great job of it.
It's a curse. It's a curse we all have to live with. We're like, oh, fuck, I got to get out and talk to people to make money. But no, you know what? It serves a purpose. Like I tell people, if I can head off any potential issues or questions that are going to be asked to Lund in the ticket system through my show, just like you would with your product videos, like, oh, you've answered the question. Now I just buy it. And it helps everybody out in the end, in my opinion. No,
but seriously, dude, and that no bullshit, like the amount of knowledge you've been able to give people for free, like, I mean, that's huge. And that shit doesn't happen a lot anymore nowadays. People want to get paid for everything. Believe me. I know, like, you know what I mean? So to be able to break off like, hour plus long, some talking shit, but also some information, like that's huge. And I said, I'd tune in. I find it very entertaining, and keep doing what you're doing, man. It's awesome.
Cool. Appreciate you. I'm going to have you hold on for a little bit so we can wrap it up. So
Sure.
Thank you again for being on. Appreciate you very much. It was very nice of you to take some time off during the day, and we'll wrap it up there. But hold on. I'll just end the recording here.
Cool.